Hi, Maura.
Hi, Kaari.
Welcome. Welcome to Say Craft.
What?
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for
Can you hear
having
me
me.
okay?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
can.
absolutely. Okay, good, good. Yeah, thank you for joining us from all the way from Texas. It's
Yeah,
nice to see your face.
oh, you too. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm gonna put my tripod down a little. I should have checked
Okay.
my angles.
Okay, good, good. So,
There.
everybody, let you know, Maura is a amazing natural dyer and quilt artist. She lives in Bastrop, Texas, with her husband and her little girl. And Maura, I think you went to SCAD, right?
Mm-hmm. I did.
Savannah,
Yes,
right?
Savannah College of Art and Design.
Right. And were you a student of Pamela Wiley's?
Yeah, yeah. She taught me
I
how to
love
quilt.
that.
Yeah.
I know. I love that connection. That's so
Mm-hmm.
great. That's so great. So, let's see, you've been quilting for like maybe 10, almost 10 years now.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think particularly what's so unique about you is you've got this really like very sophisticated color palette that's almost kind of contemporary, but you use very traditional techniques to make your quilts.
Yes.
So that just gives everybody a little idea of what you do. And we just wanted to check in and see how you're doing and how life is different for you or if it's really kind of pretty much the same.
Right. So we moved out to the country 6 years ago, and in pursuit of a simple life, more, going into the simple living aspect of things. And so we have 10 acres and just in the middle of the woods here. So to be home and to have to be staying home it's actually a practice maybe we wanted to do more of. So
Right.
we're doing okay. My husband likes to say we've been preparing for this for 6 years.
Totally.
It
Right.
still
Yeah.
has its constraints for sure, but
Hmm.
I think that simple living that we were looking for isn't, in essence, it sounds very nice, but it's a practice that takes a long time to
Totally.
actually get. And this isolation period with the quarantine has pushed us into more
Hmm.
the uncomfortable changes that are required to make a simpler life. And
Yeah.
and we're seeing that silver lining from it, and really thankful for our 5-year-old. She's
Yeah.
the brightest light of the day,
Right.
and we find ourselves sort of like celebrating just around the dinner table because of her, really, and she's
Yeah.
easy
Yeah.
to bring celebration to.
That's great.
Moments,
That's
yeah.
great. Are you finding that are you growing your own vegetables or are you able to, I know you grow a lot of your dye plants and that's all very local to you, but are you also trying to stay really local with your food?
Well, yes and no. I'm pretty flexible person and
Right.
an open-minded person with the constraints. We are growing vegetables in our garden, and it really, I was full force with that until I had a child. She's my main focus.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I keep the vegetables growing. We have some like yellow squash and zucchini, and
Right.
she just told me her hollyhock flower bloomed this morning, and
Oh.
we have a good amount that it's an educational practice and
Mhm.
an engaging practice to eat from, but
Right.
it's not our full supply.
Right.
We use the local grocery store. So
Right. Great.
yeah.
For what you need. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good, good, good. How are you changing, if anything, you might not be, but is your daily practice changing now that your child's getting older? And are you able to like kind of go into your sewing space and spend more than an hour or two at a time?
Yes. So I marked the start of kindergarten, which was last fall in August,
Okay.
as me getting like back to work fully.
Right, right.
And so I came out of the gate with like a new series of quilts that I had been working on, and they're all more in the blue area because I was sort of going back to my roots of where I got started with quilting when I launched myself was mostly in the indigo and denim.
Okay.
And blue is this color of like life to me. It's we live on the blue planet. It's water. It's the essence of the beginning. And so with her starting kindergarten, that's the series I presented. And
a good color. Yeah.
It's incredible. And using natural indigo, the tones and variations are all just so unique and special depending on the plant's harvest period and the water and the type of fermentation you're using or not. And so it's amazing. And then, so that was then, and when the United States really was informed on the pandemic in March is when the school shut down here. And so my daughter's home, and it did change my practice. And I would say it took a couple of weeks to find my footing. I mourned my time because, I waited for that time.
Right.
And just to have a 5-hour stretch is like, that's what I want. I like,
right.
I could go longer, but 5 hours is a good, healthy, like, session for me in the studio.
Exactly.
And it feels like, I can keep that as a job. I can create a job out of that. So her being home has been a new twist to things. But I realized there was an interesting component of just the energy to get her to school and with lunches, backpacks, laundry, transitions.
Totally, yeah.
Was kind of, it can actually take up a lot of the time of the day. So
absolutely.
There's been some days with her home that I have found I can get just as much done, but it's not consistent. So that's the funny part.
Exactly. Because you, so do you dye all your own fabric that you use for your quilts?
I do. There's one special black and a very dark turkey red that I've bought.
Okay.
But all the others, I dye it myself here.
You dye them. And then you hand quilt. Do you hand piece? No, do you hand piece and hand quilt?
Machine piece and then hand quilt.
Okay, great.
Right, yes. And I actually have a really dear friend that helps me with the hand quilting. Her name's Monica Loring, and she's a zookeeper. She's sort of a mythical person that has like a pet monkey and is amazing. And we met before all that 8 years ago, now I guess 9, when I was launching my business. She and I connected, and we've just stuck together since. And
that's great. So you have a small quilting bee.
Yeah, we've grown it before. It's been about 5 people, but I make all the tops. I never would pass that off. It's sort of like my paintings. So just receiving help with the hand quilting is like the support I need to kind of keep going with my designs and ideas. And
Right. Yeah. And then you and your husband, I think, produced your guidebook, which I love. You sent it to me, and your first one, I think, was Piecing a Scrap Quilt.
Yes, and Josh Goldman just popped in, and he's actually the camera operator.
Oh, no kidding. No kidding.
Director, also producer with his wife, Murphy. It's sort of a group, it's a small group of friends of us that worked together. And really the concept is we've been friends since college, and we have just so much fun together. And we're all very much excited by the art that we make, that kind of doing it together was a practice to try, and it was awesome.
It turned out great, and what I love about it is that if you've never quilted before, if you've never picked up a needle, you could start and watch you and your girlfriend that's in it, and just be able to actually create a quilt. And I think it's a really good step-by-step workshop to learn to quilt, and it's from beginning to end. So I thought it was really well done.
Thank you. Yes, Jen Miori is my co-host guest, and she really, it was special to have her. She's a musician, so she's comfortable with speaking and talking about her ideas openly, but she had never really quilted from start to finish before, so it's like in real time.
Exactly. I thought it was great. So I hope you do more, because for me, I found it very, even just comforting watching it, in a sense that even if I wasn't doing the work as you were doing it, I just found that it was a good kind of basic knowledge to just kind of go over, and here's small tips that you give out. I thought it was enjoyable. So do more, do more.
Thank you. I will. Thanks for the encouragement.
Good, good. And I think what comes through also in that video is, which was good for me to see, is your really sophisticated sense of color, which I see that as somebody just really trusting their own eye, or trusting their own kind of being really comfortable with what they're putting out there in the world, whether it's, you know, blues and oranges and yellows, but all those natural, you know, plant dyes just so blend together so well and so sophisticated that I think it's also a lesson in color study. You know,
I would love to go deeper in that. Yes, I've been writing more about color for a conference that may be postponed, but yeah, I feel like that color to me is like music. It's hard to articulate it, but it's a feeling. So there's and I feel the natural dyes are a color that are like my best friends. I've made them, I've seen them come from plant to dye to fabric, that to be with them and cut, I don't feel even like cutting them up is like, it's what we're supposed to do with them. And it feels natural and freeing and improv, because they all have harmony together. Definitely.
Yeah. So are you dyeing these days on anything different? Like I know when I'm you were going to join us in France this summer, and unfortunately we've now had to postpone till next summer, but hopefully when you come next summer we'll get to do some natural dyeing. I know we did that last summer in France with Verb for Keeping Warm.
Yes.
And the girls, you know, we pulled out the big copper pots and they just foraged around the house, and they brought some beautiful old dyes with them and pigments. And it's a real eye-opener for someone that's never done natural dyeing to like do it close up and to see, like, if you're doing it on old linen, like you might in France, or on, you know, a quilting cotton, and how different.
For sure.
Are you dyeing on anything different these days?
Yeah, so once I sort of got out my wiggles with my blue series, here I'll kind of bring over what I work. I switched into this right before the quarantine, when I was going strong with my studio hours. I went into this like color world of silk. So like,
oh yeah, oh that's great.
Natural dyeing silk is kind of like it's like the highest song. It's like an opera. And then I went into like just using all the colors, like,
and it absorbs it so well.
It did. So my favorite.
Oh, that's great.
I think my favorites are silk and linen. Being opposites fibers, they still have this texture. They're extreme on the texture scale. So I think that color, meaning color and texture together, is sort of takes those notes and brings depth. And so that's where I'm at with the dyeing. And really, I get to this point where I dye plenty for myself, that I don't need to be out there dyeing every month. But my daughter, it's so sweet because she's grown up around this since she was newborn, and she's asking me to get out there, and she told me she wants to make she calls it a vlog, which is a word I gave her. She wants to do a vlog with me about natural dyeing for kids. And she's only 5, and I love that she's encouraging me to do that. So I'm prepping the kitchen outdoors. Really this year I feel like it's for her because she's asking for it, and I'm like, I can't turn that down. But I need to kind of get it in order to have some control. So
exactly. And what colors? What will you be dyeing? Like next, what colors are you going to dye?
It's cochineal, absolutely.
Always,
It's that maroon, pinks, you know, which I never even brought really into my practice unless we were at workshops. I always included it, but I didn't really include it in my quilts. Now she's influenced my work in that way. I think motherhood has really opened me up into this like phonetic energy of like, of just of this more growth. Like I feel like I'm bringing more color in and just open to it all. So for her, it's really all the color. She wants to do rainbow all the time. So
Sure.
we can find ourselves in this dip dyeing. And it wasn't until I worked with kids that they'll take like turkey basters or anything. They'll take cups and they'll scoop it out and just pour it on the fabric. They're like thinking differently.
Yeah,
so,
and it creates something like that we might not have ever thought of initially, and yet then you like follow that thread and you're like, yeah, I'm going to start doing, just, it's interesting how we can really learn, in a dye workshop. I always say we're all teachers and we're all going to learn from each other, because somebody's always going to do something, some happy accident or something new.
Right,
so I panic, and I love dye workshops because you never know. You never know what you're going to get. But it's usually if you're open to kind of just learning from the fiber and the mordant and the color, you're always going to get a great surprise.
Yes. So I wanted to share what what's changed in my work, because I feel like before the quarantine of sorts, there is a series I was working on that was expressing where I'm at in my work and life, but that's changed, and it's a real pause. And so what I've switched to working on is things that are more connected to other people and not just myself. So working with the basic concept of the friendship quilt. I know there's a lot of beautiful community work that's going out, and I have this limited time being home with my daughter so I've sort of developed my own like old fashioned way of doing it, which is like taking, here, I'll switch down to my desk, but it's taking the basic half square. I don't know if that's even registering beautiful.
Yes. Yeah. We can see it.
So it's taking the basic half square triangle, and what it is you just take these squares of color, or you can do anything, but I take one of color and one of white, and I stick them together, and then drawing just a line right down the middle, and then sewing on each side. I have some examples because I don't sew that. There's not a perfect line that needs to happen, but it has to give you enough that you can just cut in the middle of it.
Okay.
And then the one you keep for yourself and make your quilt with, and the one you put in a pile for the friend. So it's like this friendship quilt of like, you're sharing half of your like square.
Right. Oh,
so
that's great.
Yeah. So that's one of the concepts I've been working with. And then also I have this giant stash of like vintage quilts that I've been kind of like digging into, because so like I'm like down on the ground. Hey, so like these are all these vintage quilt tops that I collected as resources and reference for like tangible learning, and I'm starting to bring them out. And the latest one is this one, and I see them as I Spy quilts. They're like sort of scavenger quilts, because really what I'm doing often is just sitting with my daughter, whether it's a picnic or laying in a bed and reading books, and to have all these different fabrics, you can kind of be like, do I spy a butterfly? And so there's this like sort of sitting still and thinking and talking sort of aspect to it, and I'm simply just tying it. I'm not even really doing the full quilting, because just to bind the top, the bottom, and then bind, get it all together. So those are, and the coolest part to me about working with these vintage quilts is it's a maker unknown to me, but the maker is another person that has a life, lived a life. And I feel it's a very contemplative experience to work with someone else's work and finish it. It was intended to maybe be finished. It's just a quilt top. I only really collect quilt tops unless I can't resist. But it's the quilt tops and the finishing of that that excites me. I sort of feel like I'm doing right by the maker and enjoying that gift.
Yeah. I collect cutter quilts. You know, I love the old cutter quilts. So I will, before I ever cut it, I lay it out on the floor. I say a little thank you to the quilt because I know it's like kept many people warm for many, many, many years.
Yes.
And I apologize to the maker. I say, I'm going to cut into this now. And I take a picture of it because on one hand, you know, it's hard to cut into these old quilts, but on the other hand, I feel like I'm often giving them new life.
Sure.
So,
Yeah.
and then I'll, you know, if I can't quite cut into it, then I repair it. You know, I'm like, a little patch here or there, you know, and I'll repair it. But otherwise, but it's a big part of my day as well. You know, just kind of being inspired by what was made 100, 200 years ago that still exists.
Right. I know that's the roots of French General is you as a textile collector.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, that's how we started it all. Yeah, way back. And I started mine basically when my daughter Sophia was born because I was just looking for a way to stay home. I was like, I got to stay home. I'm going to have a baby and stay home. And after I was home for about, I don't know, maybe a year, I was like, I got to go back to work. I got to do something. So that's when we started French General, was the year she was born, just to kind of give us all something to do and to focus on. So we're 20, Sophia's going to be 23 in June.
Oh,
I know, right? Right. Well, I've loved catching up with you. I've loved seeing your face and talking with you this morning. And I'm glad to see you're all doing well. And I would love to see you at French General someday for a workshop. So if we can ever work that out, if the stars align, I would love that.
Me too. I love getting over to California. It's awesome there. So
all right, we'll work on it.
And thank you. This was special to anticipate this togetherness, and then to have it really was special. Very big exclamation in my day and week. So thank you.
Thank you. Well, thank you for joining us. I really appreciate it, Maura. And if nothing else, I'll see you in France.
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Thanks, Maura.
Okay.
Talk to you
Thank you,
soon.
Kaari.
Bye-bye.